a while since I've drawn some cute little animal girls instead of just drawing straight up animals. Okay, that was a lie. It's not actually been that long, but it feels like it's been forever because I've been so busy with my Inktober series. But anyway, we'll be drawing some cute, girly anime furry OCs. See, I gotta collect all the possible hashtags for this. And you know what's cuter than just some cute bear and bunny girls? Super duper sparkly bear and bunny girls. This is a set of 12 sparkly metallic jelly roll pens. I believe I have made a video about these before, but I'm not entirely sure. But either way, that's what I'm going to be using today. And to make it just a tiny hint more challenging, aside from the line art, these are going to be the only pens I will be using. Which means there will be some very, very sparkly pictures. And also finding harmonious color palettes for single characters might be a little troublesome. So I'm gonna start by swatching them. And this little bear girl is gonna be my swatching buddy. Now that the swatches are done, let's try to get a good look at those sparkles. So I'm gonna try to use the flashlight because my experience, I feel like that works the best. I can really nicely see the sparkles from my angle right now. And I really hope that you can too. And the lights go back on. I'm thinking about drawing 3 or 4 characters, but I want them to have a theme and I'm not quite sure what sort of theme to go for just yet. Perhaps the school uniform could be nice. I don't think I've done that in a while, and I could use this dark gray pen as the color for the uniform since it doesn't really go well with any of the other colors. Neither does the yellow in my opinion. So maybe I could combine the yellow and the gray as both being the colors of the uniform. And then I would definitely not have to leave any empty white spaces, which could be nice. I think that sounds like a plan to me. Alright, let's start off by sketching in the characters. Believe it or not, but today I actually thought about drawing characters interacting with each other and adding more fluff to the background and basically creating a whole illustration instead of just characters nicely standing around. But in the end, I decided to just draw characters standing around because I'm already planning on coloring in everything with just gel pens. And in case you haven't used gel pens before, they have tiny little tips like ballpoint pens, and it takes forever to color anything in because they're not really meant for coloring. They're more so meant for writing or maybe adding a few little details, but you're not really meant to color in a whole character's outfit. I mean, you can do whatever you want with them, but it's not exactly their intended use, so it's kind of a pain to do that. Personally, I think it's actually kind of relaxing. I quite like doing just mindless work that keeps my hands busy. But yeah, like I said, it takes a long time, and actually this isn't the first time I did this to myself because I have done this before with scented Chupa Chups gel pens. I really like the illustration from that video, so please do go check it out afterwards. My Amazon package just arrived, and I've been wanting this for years, and I finally splurged and bought them. And I'm really excited to use them for next week's video. I have plans. I do kind of wish this package would have come an hour or two earlier so I could have used them for this week's video. But guess we'll just have to wait. I really wanted at least one of the characters to have short hair because short hair is like super cute, but I rarely ever draw it because I find it quite hard. And as you will see later on in this picture, I do mess up the short haircut as well. Maybe I should really just make an entire video about practicing short hair. Like, I really want to scream justice for short-haired girly girls because if I could afford regular hairdresser visits, then I would be one of them. If you're drawing like long hair or fluffy hair, it's so much easier to hide your mistake. And I'm really bad at drawing layered hairstyles. And when you're doing short hair, then you kind of have to layer it to a certain degree. Also, I did initially want to draw a uniform that had like really long skirts because I think the combination of long skirts with a school uniform is like really pretty and quite elegant. But because of the poses that most of my characters have, the long skirt just didn't really work. It would kind of hide the pose their legs are in and then make everything look kind of off off balance and a little awkward. So in the end, I decided to go for a mix of medium length skirts and pants. In general, every time I do design uniforms, I like to design them with different variants in mind. Like at the very least, I think every uniform should have an option between long and short skirts, or pants if you want to include them, and long or short sleeved shirts, so that students can combine these options however they want and however they feel the most comfortable. Not just because of general clothing preferences, but also throughout the year as the season and the weather changes. I also don't think that socks or tights should be a must-have, just because both of them can be either really uncomfortable or like really warm. But I am a big fan of black tights. I think black tights almost always look really good, especially in combination with a black skirt. I think it's so pretty. Oh, also in this case, I included 2 variants of shoes, which I don't usually do, but I feel like I've already included so many variants I might as well. The only thing that's not optional is the mini vest and the giant bow. Wearing a massive bow like this to school, I'm sure would be really annoying, but this is art. I'm allowed to have a little bit of creativity, and I love the look of over-dimensional bows. It just looks so cute. And of course, they're wearing the little school icon of the squid as a pin on their bows. Oh yeah, speaking of, there's no particular reason why the school icon mascot is a squid. I was just scrolling around on the internet hoping for some sort of inspiration for a school logo, because I had like this empty space over in the corner, and a picture of a squid was basically just the first thing that caught my eye, so Squiducation it is. My boyfriend actually helped me come up with that name. None of these girls are squids, but I'd like to think that maybe the founder or the principal is a squid. Or perhaps the school is like funded by squids, or maybe it used to be a squid only school, but that was like way back in the day, and as the world got modernized, they opened their doors for other animals as well. So with the colors, I really knew that one of them is gonna be a crocodile and the other is a goldfish. I wanted to start by coloring those 2 in, and you may have noticed that the goldfish girl actually has sharp teeth and predator eyes, and that's because initially the goldfish girl was meant to be a shark, and when I did the line art, I kind of forgot to change those 2 little features of hers. So maybe she's both a shark and a goldfish. Maybe her dad was a goldfish and her mom a shark, or the other way around. I'm always like so bad at naming characters. Even when I'm playing The Sims, I usually just randomize their names until something pops up that I kind of like. I also never change the names of my adopted kids because it feels kind of rude. So in my current family, I have a kid named Asia, and I would never name my fictional child after a real world place. But the toddler looked so cute. She was like so adorable. I had to adopt her. She also loves being held and listening to music. Okay, so now that my sketching and line art is done, it is time to color, and I did consider just randomly picking colors. But considering that in my head, this one is a crocodile and this one is a goldfish, I don't think I want to randomize, at least I don't want to randomize their main skin colors. So I'm gonna start by coloring them in, and while I'm doing that, I will think about how I'm gonna continue with the others. So for the crocodile girl, this kind of applies to every time I draw a lizard-like animal, including like dragons. I like to give their belly, like underside, a different color than the rest of their body, because I feel like that's the case with a lot of reptiles. Obviously not all of them, but a lot of them I feel like do have a lighter underside. So that's what I did with her tail, and then I was kind of debating on doing the same with her hands because I thought it could look really cute. What I forgot about, however, is the fact that I wanted their uniforms to be gray and yellow, and you will see a little later on that now her hands, the palm of her hands ended up being the same color as the sleeves of her shirt, which looks a little awkward. So I guess in universe, to her, the school uniform is partially nude colored, which I feel like would be kind of awkward. When I was coloring in the goldfish girl, I'm not really sure why, but the orange pen was a little bit scratchier than the green one. And also for some reason, the orange one smudged my line art, which I feel like the green one didn't do at all. I also tried to add a little bit of blush to both of them, but I kept forgetting to let the gel pens dry and I kept smudging the blush everywhere. And you'll see me repeat that for like each one of the characters. since the crocodile budgie and goldfish, we're gonna have like very realistic colors, I guess you could say. I feel like I should have made the bunny and the sheep also more realistic, but I don't have any more realistic colors left, so I started with the bunny in pink just because from all the sort of fantasy colors there is, I feel like pink bunnies still feel like the most common or like the most standard, and perhaps it's the fault of Energizer bunnies, but anyway, that's why she's pink, and I think she looks absolutely adorable. I think the pink goes really well with her. I also thought that like purple hair could look really good with her, but I wanted to color in every girl's like body first before I decide on who's gonna have what hair color, because I didn't want to have any repeat hair colors, just like I didn't want to have any repeat eye colors, although I messed that part up. I feel the bunny is really cute, and somehow the energy she's giving me is kind of class representative. I feel like you'd always assume that the super smart and nerdy kids would be the class representatives, but at least at my school, it was always the super outgoing, more popular kids, and I feel like she's really giving outgoing energy, while the crocodile girl is giving a little too much outgoing energy. I feel like the bunny girl really hits the sweet spot. For the bird one, I really wanted to have a bird character, which is why you can see she's the first one I sketched in and immediately added the wings. But I didn't really know what kind of bird to do, and since I drew goldfish, I thought it would kind of make sense to add a common domestic pet bird as well. And I saw a picture of this entirely yellow budgie, and I thought it looked like really pretty. And then later on I realized, oh no, the uniform is yellow. If I make her entirely yellow, that's gonna look really weird. So I tried to go for a more standard budgie color, but basically every other budgie color seems to include a lot of white, and especially in the face. The faces seem to all be either white or yellow, which are colors that I did not want to use because the whole point of this video, of this picture, is for all the girls to be super duper sparkly, and then having one character whose entire face is just blank white paper. That would be kind of sad and defeat the point of this video. So I improvised a little and made her face blue. In the same vein, I didn't want to use black because obviously the uniform is gray and that's the closest color I have to black. So I used the darkest blue that I had to replace the black. And technically there is also a mid-tone blue included, but because she's wearing a long-sleeved outfit, you can't really tell. Like, her hands are a different blue to what you can see on her wings, but it is quite dark as well, unfortunately. I feel like I've been gushing a lot about the crocodile girl, but I need to point out that the bird girl ended up having like my favorite hairstyle from these girls. I think it turned out to look super duper cute, and in general I'm a really big fan of the combination of like tight braids that then morph into like ponytails or puffs. And I guess you can do the same hairstyle without braids and just like really tightly brush back and gel the hair, but I feel like the braids are just an added cute bonus. I do, however, still kind of struggle with drawing them, but I have to keep trying because if I stop trying then I will never learn. The goat girl unfortunately ended up being the last in row to get colored, so she did unfortunately end up with, I guess you could say she ended up with the leftovers. And I do think the red actually looks really good on her, and I feel like the red kind of actually matches the energy or the vibe that the way she's wearing the uniform does. I don't know, something about choosing the long pants and then having this like really proper pose and the books and everything really goes well with the like kind of dark bright red. And I think ideally I would have given her a dark hair color, but like the only dark color I have is the purple, and I kind of want to give the purple to the bunny, so I'm already concerned about what I'm gonna do for her. I also really wasn't sure what to do about her eye color because I really wanted to give her brown eyes, like dark brown eyes, but obviously I do not have a brown pen here. So yeah, I do feel a little sorry for her. But unfortunately, when you have 5 characters and only 12 pens, then somebody's gotta take a loss. So with the hair colors, you can't really see my thought process, but I spent a long time thinking about who's gonna get what color. Because I feel like the purple would have gone so well with like basically every single one of these characters. I just think dark hair and dark eyes always look good on everyone. Actually, no, I take that back. Maybe not everyone because I looked pretty stupid when I had black hair. But it looks good on almost everyone. Then the turquoise I feel like could have looked really good on the goldfish girl, but I also didn't really want both her eyes and hair color to be the same. And that's kind of like an unwritten rule that I wanted to use for every single one of the characters. And I sort of managed to stick to that, but you'll see. So in the end, the crocodile girl got the turquoise hair because I felt like somebody needed turquoise, and the turquoise just didn't work for me with the budgie bunny or the sheep. And I was a little worried because the turquoise and the green are actually quite similar, but it ended up looking really great. I think the turquoise really suits her, and it kind of suits her personality. It is quite a fun color. And lastly, we have the sheep girl. I do admit I do feel quite guilty. She definitely got the worst of the color combos from all the characters here in my opinion. But I really don't think there's a lot of colors that go well with red. I thought about making her horns orange and giving her yellow hair, which I think the yellow hair could have looked better with her skin tone than the orange does. But because the uniform has a lot of yellow in it, I didn't want it to look like her hair was morphing into her like puffy sleeve, so yellow was not really an option for me, which means orange it is, and I'm genuinely not happy with how it turned out. But at the same time, I feel like it could have been worse, and honestly, if I could, I think I would have given her a dark brown hair color. I think dark brown could have looked really cute. But then again, like everyone has such bright and wacky colors, maybe giving her a natural hair color would have looked kind of odd too. It probably would have worked for her as a single character, but not really in a group setting. Honestly, actually, I have no idea how I could have done this any better. I think orange or purple were the only options, and I chose to favor the bunny girl over the sheep girl. So that's on me for being a bad mom and picking favorites. But then, even if I gave her the purple hair, I don't think any other color would have gone well with the bunny girl, because the bunny girl already has like the dark pink in her face and in her ears. I wouldn't want to make her hair dark pink as well. That would have just looked too monochrome. And I don't think any of the like blue and greens would have looked good with her either. For the bunny girl, I feel like I've said it already like 5 times, if not more. With the bunny, I almost immediately knew that I wanted to give her the purple hair because I thought purple obviously goes really well with both the pink shades that she has. I did take a step back and did consider putting the purple hair on some of the other characters. I think the purple would have looked good like with pretty much everyone, but I really wanted her to have purple hair, so I did kind of stick to her having purple hair. There's really not that much to say about the bunny girl because even though she wasn't the first character that I wanted to color in, I feel like she still felt like the most straightforward to me. The pink felt right, purple felt right. She also doesn't really have any unique skin details or patterns in her fur. The darker pink also worked really well as blush on her cheeks, which I'm really happy about because the blush didn't really turn out to look great on every character. The budgie girl also kind of gave me a bit of trouble. Even though she is entirely blue, she still looks very colorful just because her design is a lot more busy than the other girls. But in the end, I went with the dark pink just because the dark pink is probably the most desaturated color. So I figured it would be the least attention grabbing and conflicting with the blue shades. And I think I was correct. I think the dark purple was the correct choice. I think it was the best choice. Maybe the purple could have looked good too, but she was not really gonna be an option for the purple hair. So dark pink it is, and I also gave the budgie girl pink eyes. I did say I wanted to avoid same hair, same eye color, so I tried to trick it a little and give her the light pink as an eye color instead of the dark pink. I guess technically her hair and eyes are still sort of the same color, but the result is really good, and I think it okay that she has matching hair and eyes. The goldfish. I was kind of running out of colors and she ended up getting blue hair because goldfish live in water and water tends to look blue. That's basically my only reasoning. And then the reason she got this specific shade of blue is because I have 3 blue pens and this is the one I barely used. So I wanted to use it again because I really like this color. So for school uniforms, I did say I wanted to make them yellow and gray. And funny fun fact, actually, like a really, really long time ago, there used to be a school in my town that used to have a school uniform with that exact same color scheme. I didn't mean to copy that color scheme intentionally, but I think it's kind of funny because now it makes this fantasy uniform feel a little more realistic to me. Also, it is such an ugly color scheme, but I feel like as someone who has been to a school with a really ugly uniform, I feel like school uniforms always need to be at least a little bit ugly. And yeah, when I started coloring the uniforms, I spent quite a bit of time contemplating on how I'm gonna color it. Like what color is gonna be the shirt and what color is gonna be the skirt and vest combo. But then also what color is gonna be the bow, because initially I wanted to make the bows yellow, but I thought it would look a lot prettier if the little squid badge they're wearing was yellow instead of gray, which means I would have to make the bows gray. But then do I want the bows to be a separate item, or do I want the bows to be attached to the shirt and be like the same material as the shirt? Which means if I wanted to go with the latter, then I would have to make the shirt gray as well, and then the vest and skirt would have to be yellow, which could look good with the black tights that I wanted to give them. But also the ink in the yellow pen wasn't quite as flowy as the ink in the gray pen, and I was a little worried that the yellow pen would give up on me because there is a lot more skirts, pants, vests than there is shirts. So then I did kind of stick to making the shirt yellow, which also was my initial thought. And then later I was again contemplating about what color I wanted their shoes to be, because initially I wanted the shoes to be gray just like the tights and the rest of the uniform, and I think could have worked for most of the characters, but I looked at the crocodile girl and I thought if I make her shoes gray too now, I think it just would have been way too much on her. So I decided to give everyone yellow shoes. And I mean, it's a little bit unique for a school uniform to have popping colored shoes. And it's also really ugly, but like I said, I feel like school uniforms have to be kind of ugly, so in the end, I think it worked out fine. Especially on the girl with the long pants, I quite like how the yellow pops out just where her toes would be. I also matched the budgie and the bunny girl's hair accessories to the color of the bow of their uniform, because I thought that made the most sense to me rather than making it yellow or like a fun color. Like there is still a uniform, so there is still kind of rules you have to stick to even if accessories are allowed. The gray bit of the uniforms was like basically the last thing I colored in. You're never gonna believe just how long it took me. I basically spent like all evening just coloring in the uniforms. It took forever. I think I'm definitely gonna blend in a clip that is not split up, just so you can get somewhat of an idea of how long this took me. Also, because there wasn't a lot of variety going on, it felt a little more boring than coloring in anything else in this picture. I love designing characters, and I love coming up with concepts and creating like mood boards, and I love other pre-production stuff, but I'm really, really bad at writing stories. I've mentioned this before, but I also really love doing visual novels, and I think it would have been really fun to have like a really, like just a really short story for these characters and turn it into a visual novel, because I think with a few little tweaks, some of these could look really good in like digital art format. Even now that I think about it, and I'm thinking about other shows that have a setting in like high school or middle school, I feel like most plot lines are either romance drama or like a detective mystery, and I see neither of those sort of plot lines working for these characters. I don't know what it is, but unless I'm designing characters specifically to be in a romantic relationship or in a like romantic plot line, I somehow always end up seeing them as like asexual beings. I think it's adorable when children and teenagers have crushes and fall in love, but it is potentially because most of the time when I am drawing characters, I am specifically drawing them as children and teenagers in my mind. And as an adult, it just kind of feels weird to me to focus on their love lives. And then the whole detective mystery stuff, there's absolutely nothing wrong with those sort of storylines, but they're just not something that I personally am particularly interested in. And I also think those kind of stories are really, really easy to mess up. And especially as someone like me who is already really bad at writing stories, I don't think I should try my hand at some sort of mystery. I love school settings because I really love designing uniforms, and I think it's a great place for kids to gather. I'm thinking about this really hard, and I generally don't know what kind of storylines could work well. The pressure of studying for a test would be like really boring, and also probably gonna cause a little bit of traumatic flashbacks for a lot of people. New Girl being shown around town has been like 3 million times, and I feel like it's getting boring at some point. Also, it's mostly just exposition followed by exposition followed by exposition. I do kind of love those episodes. I am guilty of that. In general, I am very guilty of loving a lot of overdone tropes and cliches. The school logo, I literally just included the school logo because I had like an empty little corner over here. Would be a fun little addition. Ta-da! Here are my finished anime furry sparkly schoolgirl OCs. I accidentally gave those two the same eye color, which I actually kind of wanted to avoid. But here they are, and capturing sparkles on camera can be a little tricky, which is why I have this footage where everything is dark except a little flashlight going across the page. But I do think it very nicely showcases just how much glitter sparkles is in this picture. I think the bird and the goldfish are both really cute, but my favorite is definitely the crocodile girl. I also think the green skin and the turquoise hair goes really nicely together, even though in this pen set those two colors are very similar. And as a quick recap, these are the Jelly Roll pens I used. And I'm also going to blend in a product photo of the box if I can find it. Because on the pen itself, it doesn't specify exactly what these ones are called. And I know Jelly Roll has quite a few very similar sets. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope to see you again next week for another one. Goodbye!